this edition of Advance on Monday, September 15th. Great to be with you. Almost as great as it to be sitting here like I do most Mondays with Brandon Waltens, senior editor of Texas Scorecard. I'm Michael Quinn Sullivan, Scorecard's publisher. Brandon, nice to see you today.
Oh, yeah.
You're looking very dapper today.
Always a privilege. Oh, well, thank you very much. And we had a great weekend full of college football and NFL. I know you don't watch the NFL, but
don't watch
a lot of great games on
American.
Sunday.
Yeah.
So, we're coming off of that. And now we're heading into another week here.
Great week ahead. You mentioned the Saturday football activities, which is college activities. So while a lot of successes, some prettier than others on the old gridiron, higher education in Texas is kind of a mess. We saw just really gross, horrible, nasty things being said late last week into the weekend from leftists on college campuses, both students and faculty, rejoicing in the assassination, the murder of Charlie Kirk. Just unhinged. It's like, is this the result of the of the gentle parenting and the trophy culture? Is this the logical end of leftists just kind of acknowledging that they're a cult of death? I mean, it's just insane what we're seeing coming off these college campuses right now.
I know, Michael. I mean, last week we talked a little bit, and certainly even before the assassination took place on Wednesday, a lot of higher education stories, a lot of focus on higher education was ramping up. And then we have this happen, of course.
Right.
And now you're just seeing these stories really, really explode, because I think people are getting very, very sick of their tax dollars going to subsidize these public universities that are letting this absolutely out of control behavior go into effect, whether it's pro-LGBTQ plus instruction, indoctrination in the classroom, or whether it's far left professors that are, going after people of faith or conservatives or students like that. Or, as you mentioned, whether it's a campus environment where students and faculty feel welcome, feel free to celebrate the death of Charlie Kirk, which is unfortunately what we've seen happen. There have been social media clips circulating over the last several days from Texas Tech, the University of North Texas, UT at Austin. There was a video, some students doing that. Just absolutely horrific. And heading into the weekend, you had Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and Speaker Dustin Burrows issue a joint announcement that both the House and the Senate are going to be creating these interim committees, specifically looking at free speech and civil discourse on college campuses. This is something that Charlie Kirk obviously is, with his work, especially in the last several years with Turning Point USA, this was something he was maybe most known for, right? I mean, it's literally what he was doing when he was assassinated, which is free speech on college campuses, opening up dialogue, but not doing it in the way that, unfortunately, we've seen the left has now celebrated, which is using blood and bullets instead of actually just talking about these issues.
And I think to the credit of Texas Tech University, they actually arrested a student who was on campus disrupting a kind of a prayer vigil, and it sounds very weird talking about free speech. Oh, you arrest someone. Well, you arrest someone because they're being disruptive and they're causing kind of problems. Rather than if you want to disagree with what Charlie Kirk believed, what who the president's actions, that's great. But don't be a bore about it. Don't be a don't act like a clown. I mean, they're just the things that seem really silly to say. It feels like we're having to say to adults. Let's make no mistake. We're talking about college kids. There are no college kids. These are adults, right? Whether you're talking about the students or the faculty, these are adults. But you have to talk to them the way you would talk to a preschooler about, how to behave during, snack time or something. It's just absolutely befuddling to me.
Yeah. And so we'll see what this committee ultimately does once they hold. I expect they'll hold a few hearings, probably in the near term. We'll see some hearings get scheduled. You have over in the House, Terry Wilson chairing that committee there. Paul Betancourt, I believe, is chairing the Senate's version of it. And whether or not any legislation or anything comes out of it, I think it is something, at least at the bare minimum, is important to talk about, because while this is happening and all this is happening in response to the Charlie Kirk issue, we still have other issues that are completely unrelated, or at least not immediately related, to the assassination that we've been seeing happen in Texas universities that we've been covering. Specifically at Texas A&M is the first one that comes to mind.
Well, yeah, so we'll talk about that. At A&M, we're continuing to cover this story as it unravels. I know Robert Montoya's going to have an article up later today. Adam Kahn's going to have an article up later today about some additional recordings of Mark Welsh, the president of Texas A&M, kind of mocking, goading the student who reported that that her professor was pushing them how to indoctrinate 3 to 8 year olds in LGBTQ themes. I mean, it's just insane. And so she complains about it, and you've got the president of the university mocking and goading the student. Completely unprofessional. But yet, this is the president of Texas A&M, who, before being president of Texas A&M, he was the DEI pusher at the Bush School. Before that, he had been at the Pentagon as Obama's DEI guy on the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Before that, he had been promoting DEI at the Air Force Academy. So it's not like no one knew who he was when he came to A&M. And it is, while there's certainly a growing number of calls for Mark Welsh to be terminated, at some point, I think both former students and the governor and the Senate might want to spend a little bit of time thinking about what's our hiring criteria again, that every single person along the way checked off signing this guy and promoting him up. It's one thing when the Obama administration's pushing him, but these are all Republicans. Every regent at Texas A&M appointed by Greg Abbott, cleared through the Republican-dominated Senate to serve as regents. The regents hire the chancellor, the regents hire the president. Maybe we need to look at maybe there needs to be more questions about the criteria there.
Oh, absolutely. And it's one thing to talk about some leftist professor that they fired who's now lawyered up and who knows what's going to happen next, right? That's one problem. The bigger problem is that you have a university president who thinks that, maybe this, essentially going by his words and the way that he's reacted to us, he essentially thinks, well, maybe the professor went a little bit far in kicking out the student, but that there is a place, he thinks there is a place to talk about LGBT instruction in childhood classrooms, right? That's disgusting, right?
Yeah. He literally said, if you want to be a school superintendent.
Yeah, if you want to be a school superintendent, we need to be talking about these issues early on. That's disgusting. And Michael, this might get us blocked on some social media platforms, but I don't care. It is so easy to draw a line between that kind of justification to say we need to be doing this trans LGBT indoctrination in schools. We need to be teaching that to our young people. It is so easy to draw a line between that and what we saw happen in Utah last week.
Absolutely right. Okay, let's shift our focus a little bit from College Station to Houston. Let's keep on this higher ed theme. Been reporting last week by Robert Montoya. This is the Robert Montoya article. Some more reporting is going to be coming out this week. University of Houston conspiring with the CCP, conspiring with the Communist Party, and it would be nice to think that maybe the Texas legislature was the ones who'd uncovered this and was calling it out. Instead, it's the U.S. House of Representatives calling it out.
Yeah, they've been continuing to put these reports out. Last week, we talked about a similar situation with the University of Texas,
right?
Having ties, research contracts, essentially with that go back to the CCP. Now the University of Houston is in the crosshairs. Who knows what other Texas universities, might come out of all this research. It is one thing, because this is something that, to your point, the Texas legislature was tasked with really studying and going after this issue in the last session.
Right.
And there was a lot done to go after Chinese influence in Texas. But how did this escape, right? How did this not how was this not uncovered during all that? I think that raises a lot of questions about why is it that we're just now finding out about this? Why isn't this something that the Texas legislature, that the higher ed committees there couldn't have brought to focus before we're being told about this from a congressional report?
Yeah, and I think, just got a little spoiler for Robert Montoya's article, included in that congressional report that Robert's gone through. It's not like you're having to connect anonymous Swiss bank accounts and track through flights that go through the Cayman Islands or something.
Yeah.
No. They've got pictures of the University of Houston leadership with these CCP folks involved in a military-industrial complex, that the University of Houston was very proud of. It's just absolutely crazy that we have these kinds of connections to a country that has said they want to knock us down a few pegs. Absolutely insane.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that article will be coming out here in the next day or two if you're watching for that. Brandon, we are less than a week. We're 4.5 days out from something very important, near and dear to your heart. Tell us about that.
Oh, yeah. So as folks know, here at Texas Scorecard, we every year give out conservative leader awards to citizens who are actually making a difference out there. They're not just watching television news and getting angry, right? But these are the people who are actually out there doing stuff. We don't give them to politicians, right? We give them to the citizens who actually are making the difference. And you can go to our website at texasscorecard.com, right there at the top at tools. You can look at conservative leader awards. You can nominate somebody for that award. We've got nominations going through until I believe 5 p.m. on Friday. So end of day Friday, people need to be getting those nominations in, and then we'll be announcing in the coming weeks exactly who this year's batch of new nominees are. But this is, I think, one of my favorite things we do every year. And especially for folks to be able to hear these stories. I can't tell you how many people have said that they got involved because they saw the story of somebody else who maybe started a group or rallied people against a local tax increase, something like that. So if you think your story is too small or you think somebody might have already gotten it, don't worry, submit those. Go ahead. It takes just a few minutes. We love to hear those stories and we love to be able to share them. And so that's up at texasscorecard.com. And the thing I want to ask you about, Michael, is who do we have coming up on Real Texans this week?
This coming week, we took a couple weeks off from talking to office holders with a couple of great interviews. You can check them out. Will Kane, and then with Brooke Rollins, Secretary of Agriculture. Her interview was on Sunday. Hope you check that out. Real important to note there, that interview was conducted, these usually track a couple of weeks delayed. And so if you're watching it wondering why isn't she talking about Charlie Kirk, because obviously Brooke Rollins and her family were very close with Charlie Kirk. It's just, that hadn't happened. So that's why that wasn't covered there. Brooke and I talked actually the weekend about she wants to do another sit down and then talk about Charlie Kirk. We'll do that at some point. But this week we have Joan Huffman, who is one of the state senator who is a candidate for Texas Attorney General, is going to be on with us this week. Talking about her background as a Houston prosecutor. Very interesting story how she even became an attorney. She was working as a secretary in kind of the bowels of the Harris County Courthouse for the district attorney's office, and said, the law's pretty interesting. Put herself through night school and then got hired as a prosecutor. Ended up as the chief of their felony prosecutions division. So a real neat story. Whatever you think of for politics, whoever you want to vote for, a really neat story to hear. One of those kind of cool. We're Americans, we're Texans, we can do anything kind of story. So it's kind of fun. So check that out on Sunday. Real Texans, Joan Huffman this week.
Yes, and we've already interviewed a number of the other candidates for Attorney General. Of course, Aaron Wrights. We've interviewed Senator Mays Middleton. Chip Roy, I'm sure, will be next. And then we've interviewed some other candidates as well. And so those are rolling out. I really do hope people check those out.
Yeah, those are great. All right. So hey, thanks for joining us today. Hope you have a fantastic Monday and a great week ahead.
you.